You're listening to From Startup to Six Figures, the show that teaches you how to turn your idea or side gig into a serious income. Now, it's time to build the business that will change your life with your host, Samuel Stokes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Startup to Six Figures, the show that teaches you how to take a side gig and turn it into a full-time income. Today we're going to look at the topic of what type of business are you? And we're going to kick off today with a little bit of a story of an experience I had a number of years ago that really demonstrates the importance of understanding this particular topic. You see, I went to a business networking group, and these can be really good because effective networking with other business professionals can help you develop a network that you can rely on and draw knowledge from. It helps you cultivate sources of new clients and referral streams, and it can help you in a number of ways build and round out your business. So I'd been seeking out and attending a number of these networking groups to try and grow my professional network a little bit. I went to one particular group in a local city, and the first time I went, I thought it was great. There's about 15 people there, most of them in related professions to me. So obviously I was an accountant, there were lawyers, bookkeepers, builders, there was a whole range of people in the room, and I thought it was a great mix of people and had great potential for helping me build my business. And sure enough, out of the first visit to that particular event, I was immediately referred 2 or 3 clients, which isn't unusual as we are pretty good at what we do as accountants. So it's not unusual for me to go to a restaurant, eat there a few times, and then walk away with the books as the restaurant's new accountant. So it's not unusual for me to get referrals quite quickly in my profession, and so these groups are highly effective ways for me to find clients. So the first time I went, I had a great time, met a lot of people, came away with a couple of new clients and a couple of potential clients, and thought, this is great. I think I'll go every week. I think I'll join the group because the first time I was just a visitor. And sure enough, the second time I went, I joined the group, I paid my membership fee, and I was quite excited because things were going splendidly. But the third time I went, I noticed that I arrived at the same time, but no one was outside talking. I thought that was unusual. I got inside and there's a whole different air about the meeting. I thought, this is a little unusual, and I sat down. There was a person I didn't recognize at the front of the room. I thought, oh, perhaps this is another member and they just haven't been here the last couple of weeks. As I sat down, the person next to me leant over and said, oh, look, this week will be a little bit different. Just ignore everything that's about to happen. And I thought, well, that's a little unusual. And as the meeting got started, it quickly became apparent that the person up front was the owner of the group. And as they got going, it became apparent that they were unhappy with the group's performance in some way. It didn't have as many people as they would like, and they wanted all of us to get out and canvass and bring other business people in and all of these things. And he proceeded to, I'm going to describe it as lecture us all for an hour on how we were letting the team down and not doing our job. And I thought it was highly unusual. Eventually it became clear that due to our, I'm going to air quote this, non-performance, that he was intending to lift the fees and a whole range of other measures which I just thought were absolutely ridiculous. And so eventually I interjected and I threw out a couple of questions for him, at which point he started getting dug into me, which I thought was highly unusual because if he was the owner of the group, I was the most recent member. Surely I'd be one of his valued new customers. But he proceeded to indicate that my attitude was a problem, and that perhaps because I hadn't bought anyone yet, I might be a bit lazy, and a whole range of other things. And eventually I thought to myself, oh look, I'm a capable business professional. I do plenty well without this particular group, it was great until this fellow arrived, but if he's the owner and he sets the tone for the business, no thank you, I don't need to participate. So I indicated that I would depart the group and not return. And as I left the room, I found myself, like, I asked him, and the question didn't leave my mind for the whole day, but the question I asked him is, what kind of business is this that takes a person's membership fee one week and the next week tries to hike everything up and lecture them on their non-performance? And all the way to the car, the drive back to my office, and throughout the day I found myself thinking, surely this fellow must be the most clueless person in existence when it comes to running a business. And I thought of a whole range of things, but the story served a great lesson to me, and that was that people can be in business and yet not know how to do business properly. This particular individual had made a couple of mistakes in understanding his business, and that was, first, what type of business was it, and two, who was he speaking to? You see, in that room, he was treating us all like we were his staff, when in reality, every other person in that room was one of his customers. That was his first mistake, and a mistake that ultimately ended up dissolving the group. It ceased to exist, yet 1/3 of the people in that room that I met are either clients today or still actively refer me business. So I could walk into a room and in 2 visits and a 3rd spectacular exit, because it did get a little argumentative, in two and a bit visits, I could sell my goods and services to 1/3 of the room and retain them as clients and referral partners. I think we're almost 6 or 7 years down the track now. So it's important to understand what type of business you are, what type of product you're delivering, and who you're delivering it to. And these are all things that he didn't understand. So let's take a look at those questions, why it's important to understand them, and how we can apply them to build a great business for you. So why is it important to know what type of business you're in? Simply put, the type of business you have determines how you start, how you grow, and how you profit. Okay, 3 key things. We're all interested in starting businesses, growing them, and taking a profit that we can use to feed our family and our lifestyle. So, in business, there's 2 real core types of business, and yes, they can split off into a range of other things, but largely the world of business is divided into 2 key types. There's product type businesses and service type businesses, and they're hugely different. They're different for a number of reasons, and we'll look at these angles, and then we'll take a look at our example business and look at why it's unusual and why we picked it as the ideal side gig to demonstrate this concept. So, a product type business is defined by the fact that most product type businesses have upfront costs in either research and development in time and money, and then production costs in order to produce something, okay? Because you're selling a physical good or item or widget to people, you have to come up with that thing, you have to design it, perfect it. Well, not necessarily perfect it, but it has to be a great product that adds value to people's life. I say it doesn't have to be perfect because some people, in chasing perfection, they really procrastinate and never quite get to market. So it's good to have a great product, get it to market in a relatively speedy manner, and get your business going. Often they can have high costs of production or high costs of R&D, so it's not necessarily the product type businesses aren't necessarily the easiest business to start. They scale largely through customer acquisition, okay? Because once you have designed your widget and you're producing it, you can sell it to as many people as will buy it, okay? And you're limited by the amount you can produce and the speed at which you can acquire customers and how often they repurchase from you. And one of the key sort of challenges product businesses face is inventory management, okay? Because you have to manufacture a whole heap of stock, and then you've got to sell it. And the larger the business gets, the more money you can have tied up in inventory. So inventory management becomes a really key issue that you'll often have to juggle with and perfect as a product type business. For example, if you're selling goods and services, if you're selling goods on Amazon, having stacks of goods sitting in these Amazon warehouses across the country ties up your money, and you need to know how much should be sitting there so that in the time it takes you to sell all your widgets, your next production line or production run worth of widgets is made, shipped to the warehouse, and arrives before your other ones run out. Okay, so those are the key characteristics of a product type business. Then we have service businesses. Now, service businesses are much easier to set up in the sense that you don't need a big production facility. You don't need to have all this R&D cost because you're providing what is often a readily understood service. If you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, you're providing a service that's readily understood. The preparation of people's accounts or the preparation of tax returns. If you're a social media account manager, you're providing a service there. If you're doing ad management for people on Google or Facebook or any of the other platforms, that's a readily understood service. Okay, and often these service business can be run with a laptop and an internet connection. Okay, that's the starting point. You may get professional offices, you may not, and in today's day and age you really don't necessarily even need those. You can function without, and there's a great many businesses that are run from home, and that is not a bad thing. Okay, we have to get out of the old mindset, which is every business must open an office, hang up a sign, and start advertising the conventional way. Much easier to set up a service business. Service business scale based on the number of staff, because obviously if you're providing a service, you are limited by the number of hours that you have. So to grow past a certain point, you need to acquire more staff and train them to provide the same good or service. The key challenge that every service business faces is staff turnover. Okay, because if you're providing a service, there is a knowledge level that is built into what you do. Okay, and so acquiring capable staff, training them, and making sure they deliver your service the same way you would takes time and effort and systems. Okay, so that's the key challenge of a service business. Now, most businesses fall into one or the other. Some are hybrid. Okay, but those are the key types of businesses. And knowing our business, how we need to scale and how we grow, helps us understand exactly where we need to focus our effort. So we're going to take a minute or two now to look at our business, or our example business, which is my author platform, which we're using to teach all of the concepts in this particular show, so that you've got ready application and you can apply these same principles to your particular business. Obviously, I pulled up a few images, for example, of product-based businesses on Amazon. Obviously, all of these products have a business behind them. Someone is manufacturing these, having them shipped to a warehouse, and then sold over the internet. I meant to show a few of those earlier. Whoops, we'll get better at that over time, folks. And naturally, the production value, all the special effects of the show, will improve with time too. But I really wanted to get out there and start teaching these things as soon as we could, so that we can help other people start their businesses in what is becoming an increasingly difficult time here in Australia and abroad in the world. So we didn't want to wait for all those other things. We want to start teaching, get the knowledge and value out there nice and early. So, looking at my business, which is an author-based business that sells predominantly on Amazon. Okay, now this particular business is interesting because it's technically a product business, but because most of the products are digital, it's different from the product business we described a little, and let's go over how that is. So all of these books are products. And in order to produce a book, it requires time and money. Okay, as the author, I have to write it, I have to get it edited, proofread, I have to get covers and formatting, reviews, and launch it. So a book might cost a couple of $1,000s for me to produce once, but then I can sell it as many times as I like. It's a digital product, so it doesn't have to get manufactured every time it's delivered. Okay? So it's interesting because it has that high upfront cost of time and money, which is representative of a product-based business, but it has no ongoing production cost, okay? And then this business scales simply based on the number of readers, so the number of customers we have, because obviously they're the ones that buy the books. It scales based on how good the books are, so how many customers buy a book and read on to book 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in a series. That matters because that increases our profit margin. And it scales based on the books I have available for sale. If I have 3 books, my potential sales are a lot smaller than if I have 12 books. Okay, so it's an interesting type business, and I picked it as my ideal side gig, one, because I love to read and love to write, so it's something I was passionate about and I've always enjoyed. I've always been a reader. And 2, it was perfect for me because I'm busy during the day running an accounting practice and coaching my business clients. So I wanted something I could do before work, after work, and that I could build a product like an investment and then sell it forever. Okay, so my investment of time and money, I don't see as R&D, though you could see it that way. I see it as a physical investment. I've created something that will return me value forever. Okay, that's how I see it. Now, inside our business, we've got 3 key product groups. So we've got an urban fantasy series, and later on we'll talk more about genres. It's not important so much that you know what the genres are, so much as you understand the underlying concepts, okay? And we'll build on them as we go. So don't stress out. Ask as many questions as you like in the comments down below. I'll answer them all. So we have an urban fantasy series set in New York City, so lots of magic. Modern world meets magic, kind of like Harry Potter-esque. You're probably familiar with that series if I threw it out there. Then we have an epic fantasy series, kind of like Lord of the Rings or that sort of genre, you know, elves, dwarves, dragons, magic. And then we've got a 3rd epic fantasy series that's underway right now, and soon by Christmas a 4th series which will also be urban fantasy. So we have 3 key product groups, and it's important that they are 3 different groups because each one will appeal to a different audience. Okay, some people will read all of them, but some will only read one or the other. So it's important we know that, and we'll look at that in more detail when we go into marketing. This business obviously has lots of other ways to scale. I can produce and sell physical books, and I do sell a few through print-on-demand facilities, which means I don't have to carry large stocks of books. Someone can order 1 copy, Amazon will print and ship it, and I will make a small profit on each sale. Okay, so everything I sell is cash flow positive, and I can sell physical or digital, and soon I will also have audiobooks available. So I can scale by different types of products, and I can scale by different series, okay? And I can also scale by adding new readers. So that's 3 ways, and the 4th way I can grow this business obviously is to increase the number of people that read book 1 and then go on to read the rest of the series, okay? Because that obviously also generates far more sales. So the quality of the book matters considerably. And I have all the numbers behind these transactions. We're going to dive into them in future episodes, see why they're important, but this is where we start, okay? So if you've got a business, ask yourself, what type of business are you and how do you grow or scale? Because once you know the answer to those questions, you can start to focus on it. Most businesses get so caught up in the day-to-day that they're not looking to the future and looking to growth. Okay, so hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Startup to 6 Figures. We'll be back next week with a deep dive into another topic that's going to help you build and grow your businesses. As usual, you can get the show notes at the link down below. You can watch the video on YouTube or the audio here on any of the podcast distribution channels. If you have any questions, hit us up down below or join us in the Master Your Business community on Facebook. We're happy to answer any of your questions. Hope you have a great week. Let's get to it growing your businesses. We'll see you soon.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your business at masteryourbusiness.com.au or join our Facebook group at mybcommunity.com. Join us next week for more coaching and inspiration on how you can grow your business from startup to 6 figures and beyond.